Question: was Dave's American trip a hoax? I'm beginning to think that it's very likely that his so-called trip to America was a hoax. Because if he had actually gone to America, I think he would have taken photographs of himself at the various locations, the gravesite, serving, outside the houses of, the Watts, and, outside the house of maybe Cindy and Ronnie Watts in North Carolina. He would have been eager to show some proof to naysayers like me and detractors like me that he actually went there. He never did that. He's never posted a photograph. There's actually no documented proof that he spent any time in America. I saw that he posted a photograph on his community page of himself outside Buckingham Palace with a police officer. I think if he's going to go all that way, there would be some proof, some documentation, some image of his trip with him actually in the photograph at one of these sites. There is none. I'm very suspicious that Dave ever went to America. I think it's very possible that Frankie is correct in saying that he might have possibly gotten someone over there to drive round to these places to pretend that he himself was there. But I'm very suspicious, and I'm very doubtful that he ever went to the United States. This is a planned podcast. I had planned to do a podcast on Jodi Arias. I couldn't do that because I had to address some of these things, but I will do it. I keep getting pushed back, but I will do it. The other thing I want to address, and I'm not going to talk about it in detail in this podcast because it's not appropriate to, and I may never talk about it in full detail, is that my connection with Justin Lee and any association that we have is not going to be affected by people on either side of the aisle. And when I say that, I mean we're not going to be enemies for now. He's going to be a part of my life. I'm going to be a part of his life in whatever narrative it's going to be. And we have a lot of love for each other. And I know that I've upset a lot of people for giving him a voice, for talking to him. Let me just make it clear. There's a lot of things that he says and does that I don't agree with, quite frankly. I don't like the way he talks to the Rusex. I don't like the way he belittles Frankie Jr. I don't like it. But that is separate to the way I feel about him. And the fact of the matter is, I'm not going to, I'm going to be as loyal to him as I possibly can. And the fact of the matter is that I do like him. And, if you see him around on my channel or whatever, that's just the way it's going to be. We're not going to allow people on his side or my side to dictate whether or not we can speak to each other. Now, I understand why I've angered some people, and I've received some really nasty letters about my, communication, because they've seen us communicate and they've come to their own conclusions and they're very angry. And I completely understand the anger because of how damning he's been towards the R's. And I completely do not condone his behavior towards the R family. I do not. But like I said, that is separate to how I feel about him. And, him and I will sometimes, we're getting along just fine. And then something happens. And then, sometimes we have a little argument or he has some kind of tantrum. And we end up, sorry, my microphone cut out. Sometimes we have an argument because the truth of the matter is our opinions are so different. I mean, we are very different in our opinions. And there's a lot of people opposing our connection, if you know what I mean. You know, there's a lot of people on his side that they don't like me, and there's a lot of people on my side that don't like him. I will tell you that I have received some really nasty letters about Justin. People just saying the most disgusting things about him and trying to get me to stop talking to him. So we have a lot of people against us being, having communication with each other. So I understand that. And like I said, because of that, that brings our that brings our connection to a halt sometimes, because tension builds up, resentment builds up. And, he thinks that I'm in some kind of Shiner cult. And I've been told what to do and what to say. And I think it's almost like I feel sometimes he wants to extract me from that cult that he thinks that I'm in. And he wants me to be on his side. And I understand that. I'm not in any cult. I wish people could understand that I'm a very objective person and that I'm not on either side of the aisle. Yes, my compassion and my compassion is for our family. My compassion is for what happened to Shanann. That doesn't mean to say that I cannot be objective in my opinions. So I just want people to, and one day I will also do a podcast. Don't know when that is, and I cringe at the thought of it. I'm going to do a podcast on the rivalry between Frankie Jr. and Justin Lee, because there is a rivalry between them, even though they might not admit it. It's the elephant in the room that I don't really want to talk about, but it might have to be discussed at some point. So that's what I want to say about that. Now back to Dave. I've read comments and messages where people saying that Dave went to America to find out what really happened. Let's cut the BS. Let's cut it. We know what happened. We know that the right person is serving time for the rest of his life for what he did. There is nothing to solve. And even if there was something to solve, Dave is just an Australian guy with a YouTube channel. He's not a detective, doesn't have the resources to have anything happen significant in this case. So anyone who thinks he's going to get anyone charged or arrested, it will never happen, because he doesn't have the ability to do that. He's just a guy with a YouTube channel. So people who say, oh, he's gone to find out what happened, or he's gone to America to solve this case, or he's gone to find out who did what in terms of what happened. He doesn't have the rights, the jurisdiction, or the ability to do that. He's just a guy with a YouTube channel. Law enforcement are not going to get involved with Dave. They're not going to give him any information. He's not going to get anything opened, re-examined, reopened. It's just not going to happen. He's not the man for that job. And quite frankly, I know, and people with a brain know, that this case has been closed for a very long time. That doesn't mean to say that we can't re-examine the case as a hobby in our own time. It doesn't mean that we can't discuss the case and explore what might have happened, what might have led to this, tragedy. But people who think that Dave is going to get anyone, if you're waiting for Dave to get NK arrested, or Jim, or whoever, it's not going to happen. He doesn't have the ability to do that. He's just, really and truly, Dave is a very insignificant person in the Watts case. He's just a guy with a YouTube channel from Australia. So I'm just going to touch on this very briefly without going into any detail. Frank Jr. made a post on his community page, and then Justin made a reaction video. And I just thought, oh God, here we go. Justin, you know that you're not going to court for anything. You know that. So just leave it. Leave it, sweetie. Don't bother. Just ignore Frankie's posts. Remember you said that they're seeking out things to offend them? Well, his stuff, the stuff that he posts is obviously offending you. Why don't you just ignore it? Take your own advice. Just ignore it. You're not going to court. You're not going to be, at least not for this. Maybe for something else that you've done. or you do. You know you're not going to go to court for anything to do with the Watts case, at least not in the foreseeable future, not right now. So don't sweat it, honey. Just don't sweat it. Just ignore Frankie's post, because obviously, you're watching what he's doing. Just ignore, if just like you accuse them of going to seek out videos that offend them, don't seek out what they're doing if it offends you. Just let it be and let it alone. Frankie is, he will write on his community post, he'll give people updates and stuff like that. And I know that Frankie is, and I'm not speaking for him. He's frustrated and he's had enough, and I completely understand. He's had enough. He really has. I almost can feel the weight of everything just coming down on him sometimes. But unfortunately, the law doesn't pan out the way we want it to. If we were going to sue everybody that said something bad about us or said something that we didn't like, we would be spending our whole lives, or the remainder of our lives, trying to get people into a courtroom. And I think it's time for healing now. I think it's time for, if social media sites don't cooperate and get them those channels shut down, then I think it's time to just, just for healing rather than fighting. Instead of fighting, try and heal, because court cases are very expensive and they're very time consuming. And look how long it's taken to get one person. That's just my opinion on that. And you have all my compassion. You've got all my sympathy. And we've had conversations and you know how I feel. You have my compassion. And I will never stop having compassion for our family.